pretty soon. I'm going to ask. This is becoming more and more intimate. So, if I could ask our friends from that are sitting on the back, if they could move closer to us, this will make it even more intimate. Uh, so while we're waiting for more people to come over, uh, this is going to be actually a really great panel. So you guys will be treated nicely by our panelists. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I give everybody more time to come up here. I'm not going to call any names, but the people sitting in the back over there, I would love you if you could move. Okay. This is pretty amazing. We've gotten really good feedback. You guys are enjoying it? You must. You're still here, so you must be enjoying it thoroughly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, we've actually gotten a lot of you guys from New Mexico tell us that you're all grateful that we're here. And we are grateful that you are here, and we're privileged to be here. So I'm asking a lot of people, especially the ones in the back, to come closer so that we begin our panel. Thank you so very kindly. You guys are awesome. You know, it's the power of microphone, I can tell you. It's amazing. I would be remiss if I did not mention to all of you all of our social media efforts before this next panel. As a, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. As the panelists will soon discuss, social media is an excellent way to engage in a two-way conversation with your friends and your leaders. Make sure to join our online conversation, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, visit our website, and subscribe to our text messaging campaign. And certainly you can find all of that information in your packets. Thank you. Oh, my God. See, this is great. I think I just swallowed a gnat. I had no problem, and then all of a sudden, this thing started. Okay, the next group of panelists really knows how to engage, activate, and mobilize people on behalf of a cause. They are our grassroots leaders extraordinaire. They are going to tell us how to turn our good ideas into concrete proposals to shape public policy. The moderator of the Effective Advocacy panel is none other than our Hispanic Leadership Network Executive Director, Jenny Korn. She will be joined by my very good friend, Mario Rodriguez. He's the chairman of Hispanic 100. Melissa Salas-Blair of Texas Puente Initiative. Bettina Inclán, a conservative Latina blogger who you should all read. And Andy Blum from the Latino Partnership, and he is absolutely awesome. So please welcome our panel, Effective Advocacy panel.
Thank you once again, Rosario, and thank you all for staying for this. I know it's been a long day, and somos familia, right? So we're going to act like this is our living room and just talk with each other about the different things that we've done and that we're going to continue to do, and then, of course, engage you all in how we move forward. One of the things I found interesting is that when I was listening to the panels here, a lot of the questions surround what do we do? What do we do about these regulations? Where do we go to talk about this? How do we change things, right? So this is what this panel is here to talk about, is how we move the ball forward. Sometimes I forget, because I've been doing campaigns for about 16, 17 years, that most people don't do that. So, because you guys are all earning a living and creating businesses. So the great thing about this is you can take advantage of us, because we're here to help you move those policies forward. One of the things that I realized when on campaigns is that, you know, we go door to door and we call people, and it's almost like pulling teeth to get people to go out and vote. You would think, because of the freedoms in our country, wow, it's so easy to vote, right? So you think everybody would, but it's right around 50%. And so sometimes you get the phone hung up on you or the door slammed in your face, and we are just trying to provide a service to people to say, here are the issues, and this is why we want you to go out and vote. So I think that we do have a challenge, and the thing that elected officials listen to is volume of people. So it's either money or people, right? So if we have a lot of people who will embark on the journey that we're taking with Hispanic Leadership Network, then we can move legislation, we can move policy. I remember the very first campaign I worked on, I was in high school. There was a road that was going to be moved from, if anybody's in Southern California, Diamond Bar to Chino Hills. And we didn't want it to go through because all the traffic would be coming and it would be congested. Well, it was very exciting that at 17 years old, we got a lot of people and we got flyers and we went door to door and we were able to stop something like that. And I saw the power of people, the power of your voice, your vote, right put into place. And so I was hooked from then, and then getting to go on campaigns and really fighting for those issues that you care about, but in a very real way. And we're going to talk about what those real ways are. And so I want to open it up, and I want to take all the time here, with Mario Rodriguez, who's the chairman of the Hispanic 100 in California, and talk a little bit about what he's doing in California.
Thank you, Jenny. Well, one of the things that we're doing, we're implementing it. We've already started implementing it, but right now we're going to kick it off on October 13th at our gala in Southern California. And that's our mentorship program. And what we as Hispanic leaders, we as leaders, you don't have to be Hispanic, just a leader, you know, we just felt that we have an obligation to help our youth that are out there, that have they're out of high school, and what are they going to do? They're going to go to college. What's the road path? What's their path going to be for their future? And what hit me right between the eyes was I was having this little boxer, 13-0, professional boxer, boxes for Golden Boy Promotions, Oscar De La Hoya's company. And before he went to his next fight, he had to get tested. So when he got tested, he was tested. The commission tested him for, you know, HIV, for steroids, for drugs, for hepatitis C, whatever. Well, he tested positive for hepatitis C. 21-year-old kid, 13 years old. His dad left him when he was 2 years old. His mom brought him up. The kid's future's over. He had $30,000 in the bank from boxing they had left over. What's he going to do the rest of his life? So I knew him because I'd seen him go on his whole career. So I took him to dinner. And so we're at dinner, and I just said, Ronnie, listen, I said, you know what? I know this is, you know, tough for you. What are you going to do? Your life's not over. You know, what do you plan on doing? He goes, well, Mario, he goes, you know what? My mom has a little janitorial company. I'm just going to help her and help her grow it. And so I started talking to him about it. And then he was just so, instead of here's a kid that you think when his career's over, everything he's went for from 14 years of age, now he no longer has it. So I looked at him, he just kept asking me questions. Mario, what's it like being in business? Mario, what's it like making phone calls to people? You know, do you get intimidated? And I started asking me all these questions, this little kid, and I'm just going, you know what? This little kid needs somebody to take him under his wing and help him. So I started, so he goes, well, I said, well, what? He goes, Mario, I dropped out of high school to box. He goes, and I still haven't got my GED yet. And I said, okay, what do you need? He goes, I need one more class. And I said, okay, first thing you're going to do is you're going to get your GED. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to see if we can help you grow your business. So I gave him some goals to hit. 2 weeks later, he calls me up. 3 weeks later, he calls me. He goes, Mario, I got my GED. He goes. So now, so I said, beautiful. So then he went back and he tested again. The commission tested him again. This time he tested negative twice. So here's his career's over. 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, his life was over as far as what he wanted to do in his future. So now he realized that he has his future back. So I said, fantastic. So I said, I'm going to mentor you. And so now what we've done is we've got him, he's now got him sponsorship. So now he doesn't have to go work part-time because now he's boxing, he's training, and now I've got him going back to school because I told him, I said, Ronnie, look what happened. Your career was over, and what did you have sitting there for you? you really didn't have anything. So you need an education. So that's what hit me right between the eyes. And I said, you know what? That we as individuals, as leaders, need to start helping these young Hispanic kids out there. So we've started this mentorship program, and so now what we're doing with him is, not only him, with the other ones, is I'm going to take him on a full day with me on business. He's going to go with me on a breakfast meeting. He's going to go with me all my business meetings. He's going to interact with all these business people that he's never had that opportunity to do before. We're going to get him media training. We're going to get them etiquette training, something as simple as etiquette training. How do you sit down? And we're at dinner when you're meeting with sponsors, when you're having dinner with other professional people. So it's really becoming contagious. And with this young guy, I mean, every time I see him, I just get really excited just having him or being around him, because you look at this young man and you see the potential in him. And now he's 15-0. His last fight, he fought at Mandalay Bay in Vegas, knocked the guy out in 72 seconds. In August, the 30th of this month, he has another fight. He's headlining the fight. And if he does well here, he'll be on the undercard at a major fight at either in Vegas or in Staples in Southern California. So this is just a little bit of what we can start doing, and what is part of what we as leaders need to start doing for young adults. And I see some young adults here that, you know what, we need to tap into. We need to help you if you need help in your futures, some guidance, you know, just a phone call, just to know that there's somebody there that you can call if you need some help.
Right, and that's and I think it's so important, because when we mentor young adults, we also start talking about the issues, because I'm sure he sees that you're politically active and asks you, what are those issues and where do you stand on those? So it's a very good way to bring young people into the issues and how they could also be effective. So that's awesome. And now we have Melissa Salas-Blair. She's from Texas Fuentes Initiative in Texas. She's been doing amazing work in the Hispanic community, but I'll let her tell you about that.
Well, first I want to say yes, Latino leadership development is key to any outreach initiatives that you have, engagement or anything else. I will briefly go, because I know we still have 2 more, and then we're going to have a big discussion together. One of the things that we do that's very important is making sure that we cross-communicate between communities. Not just talking, we obviously engage Hispanic communities, but also making sure that others understand Hispanic communities. Also being out in the communities directly, indirectly, surveying, canvassing, being where they are, using the mediums. You have a medium where you can engage. Same with us. I think if we really want to talk about, rebuilding not only our American dream, but also our relationship from the center-right movement with Hispanic communities, it's really important that we start really trying to get our communities to trust our movement. Through language and also through presence in the community, Spanish media, and also consistency in the communities. It can't be like an outreach and go type of thing. It really has to be consistent, and you have to have presence in communities. You can't say, oh, why are they not voting for us? Well, are you present there? I mean, that's really key. And some of the other things, just, proper, communication. You can do indirect, direct, and Latino leadership development obviously is very key. Social media, which I know Bettina is going to hit on in just a moment. And there's a lot of other avenues that we can discuss, and I know Jenny wants to get to that, so I will let Bettina talk about social media. Well, she told us, she goes, I want to have a real conversation. So I'm like, okay, I'll go through fast so then we can get to it.
Right, no,
So.
that is great. I mean, the point you just mentioned about really engaging on a long-term effort, which is exactly what Hispanic Leadership Network is doing. This is a long-term, sustained effort to bring Hispanics to be advocates all the time, to whatever issue is important to you. And Latinos, we need an invitation, right? Like, we all agree, right? How many times you'd be like, well, I didn't get invited to that party, right?
It's presence, I'm telling you, that's the first thing I
We
get
need
asked.
an invitation, so it's our duty here as leaders to go out and invite Hispanics to be engaged with our issues.
Consistently.
So, consistently,
Engage.
Absolutely. And with that, we have Bettina Inclán, who is our blogger and has been blogging about the program the whole time?
Yes.
Yes.
My name is Bettina Inclán. I blog at bettinanclan.com, also at Daily Grito, and some conservative websites like Right Wing News. And I started blogging in 2002 when I graduated from college, and I moved to DC, and it was a huge deal because I, like many Latinas, was not allowed to go away to college because I had to be with my family and I had to And I was the first person in my family ever to move away before marriage. And you should have seen the looks from my cousins. But I used blogging. It was a new thing to communicate with my friends what was going on. I got a job on Capitol Hill, and it was new because none of them were working on Capitol Hill. And since then, for the last 10 years, I've been working in communications, helping campaigns, Latino organizations, conservative organizations connect. And we talked a little bit about how we like a party. Latinos are super, super social, and it's reflective in online media. We have a larger amount of engagement than any other demographic in this country. Hispanics like me, cannot live without our cell phone. 87% of English-speaking Hispanics have a mobile device, and it's their #1 way of getting connected online. And we're a community that is always, we want to be tech savvy, we want to be in everything. Part of it is because we're such a young demographic. Another part of it is just the reality of distance. My 66-year-old father is on Facebook and Skype. Why? Because he can talk to his family in Mexico way cheaper than calling him on the phone. But it's a reality, and he finds out what I'm doing because he's on Facebook. And that's a lot of our community, young and old, beyond every generation. We're on social media because we're social people. We want to share, we want to talk. On Twitter alone, Hispanics have an engagement of 18% on Twitter. The general demographic is 5%. We love sharing, we love talking. And I think that we have to take advantage of that information and know how to communicate, how to get the information out there. And I think it's some of the things that we'll be talking about.
Great, thank you, Bettina. And the other thing too, with the phone service, cell phones, so we did some work with the Hispanic churches, and we were trying to do it on the website, and we found that either they didn't have access to the internet or they didn't like to use the internet. So we changed over to a text campaign, and it was amazing how many people were involved in the text campaign, and that's how we communicated with them. And at every concert where there was a religious singer, they would ask for them to participate and text in with the name of whoever the singer was. Over 65% of the people in the audience participated, which is way higher than any other non-Hispanic crowd. So text campaign is a really good way in addition. And now we have Andy Blum, who is with the American Principles Project. And Andy, I'll let you talk about what you're doing.
Our better known in the Latino community effort is called the Latino Partnership for Conservative Principles. It's headed by Alfonso Aguilar, who regrettably couldn't be here today, so I'm the minority representative. Hola, ¿cómo está?
We will grant you your honorary Hispanic.
My lovely wife, who is here, was just pointing out to me that she is, certainly part Hispanic, and that as a result, all of my daughters are Hispanic, and that they are colonizing me. The American Principles Project started the Latino Partnership, as we were all Anglos at the time, by the way, because we saw two very dramatic needs. There's a demographic reality. Unless a conservative candidate gets 40% of the Latino vote, we cannot win the presidency in 2012. So there needs to be an outreach to the Latino community to talk about conservative values. And we've been extremely effective in that. You can't hardly turn on Telemundo or Univision or Fox News Latino or CNN Espanol or read La Opinión, and I can go on and on and on without encountering Alfonso. He's become the dominant conservative Latino voice in the media, which is very important because he's speaking to Latinos about conservative issues, but he's also speaking, and we are also speaking to the conservative movement to get them to understand the importance of the Latino community, the importance of the Latino vote, and how you actually do need to talk to them. Up to date, conservatives have spoken to the Latinos way. If I turn to this beautiful woman and say, well, you're ugly, and slap her, and then ask her out to dinner, she's not going to go. This is how conservatives have treated Latinos, and we've needed to change that. But there's something else, I'm hoping this panel is going to get to this, that has to happen, and that is Latino conservatives must become much more visible in the media in legislators' offices at the city, county, state, and federal level, one of the things that's not happening is, and I'm hoping that we're going to talk about being effective in your advocacy, one of the things that's not happening is that Latinos are not making their voices heard as conservatives in the public square and in the halls of legislature. And this is where we really need you guys to do a more effective job of letting people know, hey, we're Latino and we're concerned about this. We're Latino and this is where we stand. So, I was very excited when I saw the title of this because effective advocacy from the Latino community will have a tremendous impact. By the way, none of this will work if you're liberal, okay? Because they already take you for granted and they're not going to listen to you. They know what you think. You're a bunch of lighter-skinned African Americans. This is how Democrats treat Latinos, okay? Conservatives need to hear from you and want to.
Thank you, Andy, for that very colorful picture that you just painted for us. And actually a very good opening to what you're talking about. Yes, we are going to address that. With the Hispanic Leadership Network, there are 4 tenets to what we're doing. The first one is building a grassroots campaign at the national, state, and local levels. A real campaign where we have metrics and goals, and we have things where we're walking door to door, we're doing phone calls, we are meeting with our elected representatives, we are doing calls and emails to the Hill. So it's going to be not only building a team of people, but actually activating people and giving you the tools that you need to talk about, we're talking about some of those issues. How do we stop regulations? Great, you have an issue, you bring it to HLN, we'll figure out and help you and give you those tools on how to move policy. The second thing is having a communications team. We have many talented Latinos here who would love to go and have interviews on print, on radio, and TV. We are happy to help you with the surrogate training and then booking you on the medium. The third thing is having these conferences. We're going to have 2 conferences a year to bring everybody together to talk about those policies because we don't want to just be making those policies in Washington, D.C. We want to be hearing from you on the ground what those policies are affecting you. And the last thing is helping you bridge that gap with elected officials. How many of you talk to your elected officials and go meet with them? Oh, well, this is a great group. Okay, good. All right, it is not reflective of the country. You're awesome. Okay, so after this, we'll all meet and we'll figure out how to take over the world. But when I went within the Hispanic churches, it was amazing how I found out that most people don't feel like they could even go call their congressmen and go meet with them. So we need to empower people, especially if you're comfortable doing that, but we need to do pure volume. And we need to talk about those policies and then hold elected officials accountable for those policies that we go and talk to them about. But I don't want to usurp all the time. So Mario, please tell us about, you want to talk about the other portion of what Hispanic 100 is doing.
Well, kind of going off what you're saying too, we'll do that. We will take a congressman, state senator, elected official, we'll take them to dinner. And we'll get 8, 10 of our board members, and we'll sit down and we'll have a nice dialogue with them. And they will sit down and we'll talk to them about issues that we agree with them on, or issues that we don't agree with them on. But it's a respectful dialogue. And that's kind of what you need to do. Because, you come in there and you start trying to tell a legislator, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you're turning them off. And what you need, because you can agree and disagree, and that's okay. And we find that to work really, really well with our legislators.
And you have a relationship with them. It's not just a one-time deal, right?
Exactly. We have a relationship with them where if there's an issue on something, I'll send 3 or 4 of our members to make a call to them and say, hey, we're concerned about this. And they know that we're not bomb throwers. They know that we're friends with them, but we disagree on this issue. So when we call them, they know we mean business and we're serious about what we're calling them about.
Yeah, the relationship is
and relationships
really
are big. Relationships are very big.
On the other hand, like Melissa, you go into the community a lot. So how do you empower those people that you've talked to who I think you're even teaching them how to vote, how to even register to vote? How do we bring them over to be advocates like most people here in the audience?
Well, again, cross-community communication is key. As much as I'm in the communities, I also talk to a lot of Tea Party organizations about Hispanic communities. I did Freedom Works Saddle Up in Texas, a lot of Tea Party organizations, because that communication to them is just as important. and now for the Hispanic communities, that can go in different stages because all of outreach engagement is not one thing, it's all layered. You know, just like you have candidate recruitment, you also have to retain that candidate. Same thing, you know, in communities when you're engaging. We engage in different ways. You know, sometimes we engage right where they're at. They're like, for example, Houston, there's a place called Plaza America, and it's Latino all the time. You know, on the weekends, there's mariachis, you know, on Saturday from 2 to 5, and on Sundays, well, I'm there along with, you know, different volunteers, you know, just discussing. One of the workshops that I particularly do is like Civic Engagement 101. I mean, that's down to ballot structure, to what a primary is, you know, to general election, so on and so on, you know, educating on issues, also engaging on what a conservative ideal is, or, you know, the principles of the conservative movement. And then, you know, you can get to more advanced things. It all depends on how you plan to structure yours. Are you going to be in your particular neck of the woods or with your particular group going to be more candidate focused, more people focused, more elected official focused? I mean, do you want to layer it all? I mean, what is it in your area that you want to accomplish? Do you want to start that one-on-one, you know, down to the grassroots as you can get, and go door to door and do effective canvassing? Just because you go canvass, are you going to re-engage? What's your plan after you leave that door? You know, you have a plan for when you get to the door, right? You know, what you're going to talk about, things like that. What about afterwards? Are you not going to re-engage again? You know, what exactly are you going to do? And then one of the things, especially in Latino communities, I'll use Texas because that's where I'm from. You will have registration rates, you know, maybe in the high 40s, 50s. But then when it comes to turnout, half the voters are dropped. Sometimes 45%, you know, just depending on the election. That's an awful number. I mean, that's an awful number. You know, ideology versus party ID. In Texas, we did a survey, middle, you know, to right, you know, center right, you know, middle of the road to the right was 70%. That's a huge number. Yet, party ID, 52% Democrat. The top issues that we had, I mean, it looked like I went to a Tea Party room and it was a saddle up, and we put all the top issues. It was, you know, immigration, economy, housing, family values, and gun rights. Every Tea Party person stood up and said, that sounds just like me. You know, like they literally were like, wow, that's me. You know, and there's so many similarities and commonalities we're just not discussing together. We're discussing here with this group here. We're not all coming together and trying to discuss together as conservatives. And that's honest, very sad. I really hope that these kinds of forums and continued discussions kind of close that gap we have amongst ourselves, to be quite honest. I don't want a gap with my fellow conservatives. And I know Latino communities don't want that either. So I'm hoping that's one of the things we can get out of things like this.
And is that your sort of your tagline, the bridging the gap, or
bridging
communities?
Yeah, puentes.
Yep.
You can't get any more bridge
great.
than that. But both ways. You know, we
Gotcha.
can't, as much as we want to engage Hispanic communities, we also have to remember to engage those that maybe don't know too much about Hispanic communities, because they won't be success. We'll
Right.
still have a gap, just in a different direction.
And Bettina,
So-
could you address sort of with social networking, how do we even move the ball forward? What can we do in the social networking realm, or even in communications, to get the attention of elected officials?
I think, first of all, there's lots of different layers, but as social networking, I think more importantly is just to get out. I think some people get so overwhelmed, like, how do I start a blog, or how do I do Facebook, how do I do Twitter? I think that you just have to start somewhere. And if Twittering in 140 characters is safe for you, just do it. You don't have to do it all the time, but start. Like, it's very easy, and once you get comfortable with one medium, it's a lot easier to jump to another. Facebook, it's also very simple, even though there's a lot of changes there.
What are you talking about? All those changes that they sprung on us in 24 hours, where I didn't even know if I was on my page.
But like I said, like so my grandmother, she passed away when she was 90 years old, and my mom at the time was like working abroad, and she figured out how to use a computer. I was like, it's just like a typewriter, but instead of a paper, this is the paper, this is the screen. And it took her a while, but she was able to send emails to my mom abroad. You know, it's all about, she was just committed, like, I can figure this out. And it's a very simple, you just have to not let it get to overwhelm you. And I would just say start simple. As far as like getting the voice out, I will say I'm one of the very few conservative bloggers there's some great efforts that have been done out there, like Heritage have Libertad, which is a Spanish website. There are the Americano. There's like some other websites that have been created, but we still need more voices. And I know there's lots of you that have probably millions of opinions that have heard it. So if all we need to do is like write it down, and you can come up after me and we can talk a little bit more about it, but put it on Facebook, put a status update, put it on Twitter. It's about creating a conversation, creating a community. As far as like connecting with these people, it's having a consistent message. And I think one of the greatest things about social media, as far as for me, is breaking the stereotypes. You can't paint all Republicans with one brush. You can't paint all Hispanics with one brush. There's lots of diversity in the community. So the more that we talk, the more that we let people know what our opinions are, we'll break those stereotypes and we'll meet a much stronger community.
How do you do the picture? You want to add pictures to your Facebook. How do you do that? I haven't figured that out.
Let's do a workshop, Mario.
Yeah, I
Let's do a workshop.
Somebody else did the pictures for me, so.
For all of those who'd like to stay during the break, we'll have a tutorial with Mario
And funny enough, sometimes I don't know all the answers. YouTube is a great resource. When I don't know something, I literally go on YouTube. I'm like, how to blank.
Google.
Like,
Google.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Hispanics have a very high propensity of loving videos. Like Univision, almost everything they have is videos. Because Hispanics, we love video. We're visual people. I'm like, we really love that stuff.
Andy?
That's interesting because the next step in our project is that we will be putting up a Latino conservative TV, .tv, so that there'll be an ongoing video conservative voice. It's very important to start the conversation as well. When we spent about $800,000 in support of Carly Fiorina in her Senate campaign, entirely as a Latino outreach effort. We did a bus tour, we did TV commercials, we did radio commercials. We had a half-hour program every day on a Latino Christian network out there. We moved the Latino vote 14 points. Okay, now Carly spent $100 million in that race and didn't create.
You mean Meg?
I'm sorry.
Meg Whitman.
We're talking about California.
No, the Senate race.
Oh, she spent $100 million?
Yeah, that was a $100 million race. We moved 14 points with 800,000. Okay, the Latino audience was ready to hear a conservative message when it was presented with respect, when it was presented in an interactive way. But when we started talking about marriage, we started talking about life. We talked about entrepreneurship. We stayed in, family values, and the outreach was, very well received in very quantifiable ways. This is why, our continued effort all the time is heavily in media. But I want to go to one other thing that I think is very important, and that is Mario talked about taking your legislator to dinner. There's a lot of legislators, and we have a limited budget. But all politics is local, and it's amazing the impact that occurs with a legislator when one of his constituents or her constituents calls them or visits with them. And I want to encourage you that this is one of the single most important things you can do. They kind of regard a single person coming to talk to them as the tip of an iceberg, and they assume that there's a gigantic, or if you want more negative, when you see one cockroach, there's millions there.
Are you calling us cockroaches?
La cucaracha. No, I'm saying legislators, but again, we're going to Democrats.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
No, but
Thank you for the clarification.
But it is astonishing how much impact you as an individual can have with a simple conversation. And if you call the guy or make an appointment and don't start you don't need to start from an antagonistic point of view. You need to start from common ground. One of the things is that there's an extraordinary number of legislators who are afraid to hear from the Latino community because they don't realize they're going to hear something conservative.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it's extremely valuable to visit or call a legislator and tell them something positive.
Yep,
Let them know
agree.
support.
Okay.
Let me add something about power in numbers. I remember in 2000, during the Bush, when they were doing the comprehensive immigration bill was coming out, one of our congressmen, good friend, anytime we have an event, he's always coming to our events. Anyhow, he was out, advocating against the bill. And so I called him, I called the staff and I said, what's up with Ed? I mean, he's our friend, why is he doing this? And he says, she goes, and this is where the numbers come in. She goes, Mario, we're getting 200 calls an hour telling him he better not vote for that bill, or we're not going to vote for him. You know how many Hispanics are calling saying to vote for it? Maybe one a day.
That's absolutely true.
Yes.
I was over at the, working for President Bush in 06 and 07 during the bill, and we heard the same thing. Even though every single poll said 70% or plus of all Americans, whether you were a Democrat or Republican, supported some type of immigration reform, the calls that were going to the Hill were 100 to 1. And that's what we're talking about. Our Hispanic advocates were not doing the calls in, we're not doing the emails in, they were not talking to the legislators.
How many people emailed Lamar Smith to thank him for his agricultural worker bill? This is one of the absolute enemies of immigration, right? Chairman of the Judiciary, and he comes out with a bill to increase agriculture workers, guest workers program. Major step for a Republican, and I'd love to know how many immigration groups and Latino advocates have called and said, hey, Lamar, way to go.
Right.
Okay, with that, I see the voice above.
Don't even know. I mean, nobody knew.
Right.
Nobody even knew that the senator has actually submitted that.
Congressman, let's.
I'm sorry, Congressman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We take
So
questions?
here, this is a good way, now that you know that there is a bill out there, look for it, find out, and support it.
And
If you
it's
so
an
want.
especially important bill because President Obama is going to come out with a grandstanding immigration bill next summer, absolutely without question, to try to say, all those promises I broke,
Yeah, I know.
don't matter, I've got another one. Okay. The conservatives need to have a rational immigration approach.
Yeah.
And this is an important step for a rational immigration approach by a conservative, and we're letting the guys down.
Yeah. That's a very good point, Andy. We thank you so very much for that and your efforts in letting everybody know that there are alternatives. There is an option out there. So to start with the questions, we will begin with the one submitted, one of them submitted by Twitter, through Twitter. And this is coming from AJ Michaud. And the question is, what is the most impactful medium for communicating with elected officials? If anybody knows.
Absolutely. I
That's
think
the-
we've
what's
all
the
kind
best
of
one?
said this, but one-on-one, I mean, I think you said it
Face-to-face.
face-to-face. Absolutely. Getting a group together to go and speak to your legislator, absolutely powerful. I don't know if you guys want to add.
Yeah, I agree. That's with communities, elected officials, that's with everything.
And reinforce with like letters, even it's an email.
social
or,
media.
like, yeah, it's social media. It's like I worked on the Hill for several years, and you'd be surprised of what bills we paid attention to because we had a stack like this of letters. So, send emails, I've worked on a lot of campaigns, and I've had a candidate tell me, "Did you see how many comments we got on that on Facebook? I can't believe we have," so anything, it's just,
Right.
but put it in writing. Go to an event, meet with them, and then put it in writing. You have to put the pressure on.
Right.
It
And
has
now
to be
that-
face-to-face
sorry.
first, though, and then you come back and reinforce with something else.
And
If
when
you're
you
gonna
meet them
do it
face
first,
to
like-
face, identify yourself as with a group or a business, okay? Don't be by yourself even when you're by yourself. You own a business, you're a member of an organization. Always bring your weight with you.
Right. And once again, now that you're part of this organization, HLN will provide you those tools on some of the issues that are coming up and provide you a way to contact your elected officials. So we will be helpful in that way.
Excellent. Okay, we're going to go with your questions. This is an opportunity for you to ask a question. Let's see. Who wants to ask a question of our
Man, we
panel?
could barely see out there.
Such a great.
Okay, let's see. That lady in green and then the lady in red here in the front.
Can you tell us how to get to your blog?
Hey, there you go.
It's bettinaandclan.com, and I have the same thing on Twitter. BETTINA, Bettina, and then last name's Inclan, INCLAN. And I've been tweeting about the event.
There you go. See, you're going to Listen to her. Okay, the next one is going to be here, and then the next one is going to be in the back, and then the following is going to be this one. Okay.
My name is Debbie Hernandez from Rio Rancho, Tea Party, board member myself. We are very active in our community, but we were very active with our conservative Republican congressman, which won in our county but not up north. I'm actually asking for help to see how we can reach the Hispanic community in northern New Mexico, because we do have a lot of things in common. We all have family values. We're all conservative. We're all pro-life. We're all pro-life because look at how many children we all have, with the exception of myself. But we love life, and we love the influence of New Mexico products also being sold in New Mexico and brought to other states.
Okay. Who wants to take
I'll
it?
take this one. Just to clarify, you want to engage as a Tea Party, correct? Like your Tea Party group, which is fine, because I do a lot of that. I actually have a meeting right when I get back with the Sugar Land Tea Party, because I did a presentation, like I told you. I have several presentations. Some of them I do Freedom Works Tea Party, again, educated on the Hispanic community. That's definitely something I would like to talk to you about afterwards. We actually will put together a workshop, and we have this the capability that we have a program where you can actually do canvassing, and they'll go door to door with a survey that you have on your iPhone, your iPad, whatever, and you upload all the answers, immediately. So you have your database, everything gets, you can analyze it immediately afterwards. Not only that, we also have a way, to track like your trail, and things of that nature, and then also how to group. It's very important that you group in a certain way, especially, when you go into Hispanic communities and things of that nature, make sure that, you're partnered up, breaking stereotypes and different types of things. That's something I'd be more than happy, because the Tea Party, engaging the Tea Party about Hispanic communities is, to me, half of the cross-community communication that needs to be done from our center-right movement. So
Okay.
I'd be more than happy to talk to you about that afterwards.
Okay.
Yes,
We're
ma'am.
going to go
Thank
to
you.
the person in the back. Excellent.
Hi, I'm Mike Gonzalez, of the Vice President of the Heritage Foundation. And thank you, Bettina, for the shout out for Libertad. Libertad.org, it's going to be a year old in a couple of months. All our research is in Spanish. Let me underline what Anderson Bloom just said about the president having a grandstanding immigration bill sometime in the next 14 months. That will happen. The president will do it very cynically. He knows that he doesn't have the votes. Heck, he didn't have the votes when they held Congress, when he had all the power. This will be done only to say, I'm there for you, to show conservatives as anti-immigration, as racist. And we don't have a good answer yet, especially to the 12 million. What to do to the 12 million? We see that we see that come out in the debates. And they have a great ground game. They're going to have Univision, Telemundo amplifying their message, and they're going to have a lot of groups. I'm not going to cast aspersions, but there's a lot of groups on the left that will turn every issue into a Hispanic issue. So I don't know. I've come now to the 2 meetings that you had, because I think this is a great group, but there's a big fight coming.
We're ready
Very
for
good.
it. We're
Thank you,
we're
Mike.
ready for it. So.
Okay. Anybody want
Jenny
to?
doesn't
I
back
was
down.
saying-
Don't they know you?
No, we're ready for it. And I just want to point out one thing. We have a lot of people here at the conference who were involved very heavily in the 2004 campaign. And if any of you here were involved, you know that we built a national team, state teams, county teams, and city teams. And we went out there, but everybody was engaged, and everybody here was also engaged. So that is something we're going to recreate, but do even better. And it's going to be long-term effort. So whoever the president is, or whoever the leader of the party is, we will always have a home. And we have all these different groups up here, and we just keep growing. More groups, more conservative Hispanic groups keep popping up, and that's very good for us, because we just can't have too many.
I agree, and that's one of the things is always mirror. We have to have a conservative mirror for everything that the left does. You mirror everything. And honestly, that's the way to build that team and to make sure that our center-right message has a bigger voice. So anyways, that's kind of what I do in Texas, is I mirror everything.
Yeah, another thing is I feel that we need to beat them to the punch. And in California, we're doing that. We're working with an organization in Southern California where we're actually going to come out with and it's a very conservative organization in white conservative organization at that. And we're going to come out with a policy paper on immigration that I think, and we're going to ask some congressional legislators to get behind. And so we have to beat them to the punch.
This is true. One of the other things, I know we have representatives from a bunch of states here. We worked in Utah this past year to get a guest worker bill passed that made big news. If in multiple states we could get guest worker legislation introduced, this is great. It's a great conservative advocacy point. The president has to hate it because of the unions, which is wonderful. And we begin to build a proactive, conservatives are actually taking action on immigration, not talking. And things like Lamar Smith's bill, every place that we can go to this type of thing is an opportunity to put out the message. Conservatives are taking action, liberals talk. Alfonso, we're here. You wake him up at 3 in the morning and shake him. He goes, conservatives take action, liberals talk on immigration. But it's really true. But this is where you folks need to get to your local legislators and say, hey, look at the Utah bill. We need that here.
Absolutely. I think that that's really, really important. Mike, you bring up a really pointed point. We already know Obama is scared, and he should. He has not only not kept his promise, but in Spanish we say le da tole con el dedo. You know, he has not really been respectful of the community. And he's going to come in at the last minute with some gimmick. And I will venture to say that there is enough disenchantment out there from the Hispanic community that will see through that. And it is our job, collective task, to ensure that people see that. It's just a ploy. It's just going to be a gimmick. He does not, if he was serious about doing this, he should have done it on the first 100 days as he promised. Every day that goes by that he doesn't do it, it will only tell us all that is just a gimmick. That is just a game. That is the last thing that he can do. But it is our collective duty to let everybody know that that is what is the case. And to the degree that we can help, go ahead, you can go ahead.
No, I think that's wonderful. And one of the things which gives us great hope is the Latino community is not able to be characterized the way the African American community as a voting bloc. It is a much more independent and much more thoughtful voting, not bloc, voting group. And I think that the more that we do this, our organization right now, we have arranged with CNN Espanol, we've arranged for them interviews with all of the Republican candidates. We're tying this up, and there'll be a special on CNN Espanol, and Alfonso Aguilar will be commenting on the interviews. But we're managing to get even that network to treat these folks not with got you questions, but with serious discussion. So when this comes out, let's make certain the Latino community looks at these folks and considers them as leaders, because this is another method of conservative outreach specifically to the Latino community. And we need to be putting this message out over and over and over again, which is who really talks about your values, who really takes actions on the basis of your values, and don't be fooled. I don't speak Spanish, but yes, do not be tricked by the lack of respect.
Yep. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we have a couple of questions more. I promised somebody here at the front, and one person after that, and maybe there's time for you, okay?
Okay, my name is Connie Gulick, and I work here at the Central New Mexico Community College, and as a teacher, first off, I'm surrounded by liberals, and all of my colleagues are pretty much liberals. I am trying to figure out a way to connect with my students without just saying I'm a conservative Republican and you've got to listen to me because I'm right. I mean, do you, the thing is, I guess, do you have any ideas? You guys have so much communication ideas and everything. I wondered if you had any suggestions for me.
I used to be a teacher.
Oh, there you go.
So
Okay.
I taught at Auburn University and at an actual rural high school in Alabama when I was doing my graduate studies. And one of the things that I would do is we would hold discussions before or after school, which you can do, and talk about, before or after school, you can create whatever club that you want to. It could be the conservative, whatever your high school is, or junior high, and talk about issues. You could also do things off campus. Oh, I'm sorry, you were at community college, I apologize. You can do it, after hours. I mean, you can hold clubs, especially out at the college level, and obviously off-site things that you can do, with your students. Would also, just depending on what exactly you want to do off-site, have a debate party. Just do different things with them. Use mediums that they use. For example, Bettina, a Twitter party. I know like Latism, Latinos in social media, they do Twitter parties on Thursdays. Maybe one of the things you could do is say, everybody, log on to Latism and on Twitter, and it's at 9 o'clock Eastern time every Thursday. But those are just some examples, but it's definitely doable. I did it a lot with my students, even the high school students. They used to pick on me because I had a picture of George Bush with a cowboy hat, on my computer in the classroom, and, that's perfectly okay. They knew where I was coming from, and then they would come and ask me questions. Like, why do you have George Bush on? And it was create conversations, and I started after school club, because that was high school. I couldn't do it during school hours, but I did one after school. So I'd be more than happy to talk to you again. I think all of us are planning to stick around, so don't feel like, you have to, if you don't get a question, and we won't answer it.
I would like to add to that. The liberals are never apologetic about what they believe in. So as conservatives, we shouldn't be apologetic
Create your
about
club.
what we believe in. And I think sometimes we tiptoe around because we don't want to offend. But if we believe in something that strongly, I think we should talk about it. As a student, when I was 19, I wasn't sure if I was a Republican or a Democrat. I could tell you the thing that changed me. So I'm not sure if this issue it's pocketbook issues. When I first saw my first paycheck and who's FICA? Like, what are they taking out of my paycheck, and where is this going to? And am I getting, if I got all the services that were great, like if my government functioned wonderfully, maybe I'd be okay with paying all those taxes, but that's not happening right now.
It didn't work, did it, when you saw that little tiny paycheck?
Okay, I promise somebody in the back. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Ken Scarborough. I'm the chairman of the Republican Party in Taos County, and we've started an outreach program to the Hispanic community. And one of the things we're doing is buying radio ads on the Hispanic station, and then we're going to the country western station because those are the two most listened to. The ads are basically going to say, support the New Life Pregnancy Center, contact so-and-so, who is a Republican, brought to you by the Taos County Republican Party. Now, I'm going to raise a lot of money to do that. My question is that an effective use of my money? Is there a place I can go to discover what the best use of my money for an outreach program is?
Excellent question.
You want to go?
Go ahead.
Sure. I think one of the first places is to talk to your community, find out what's. Well, is that a major issue? It's like radio ads are very effective. I've seen in the campaigns that I've worked with throughout the country. Radio is a huge medium to connect with Latino voters. Television is a little bit more expensive, but a lot of things we talked about, like online is great, but offline is sometimes even more important. It's connecting with those people. So I know that we have a huge panel of a lot of people ideas here, but radio is great. It's all politics is local, so I can't tell you a general message of what's going to work in your own community, but it's connecting with those people, finding out a respectful, consistent message, making sure you have the same message in English and Spanish, and that they feel invited and welcomed into what you're saying.
Do you have an outreach committee that you put together, people like a structured plan? Because media would be underneath your outreach plan. Mm-hmm. If you have a structured plan, media would be one, canvassing, just different things. So I didn't know, have you all put a committee together to do an outreach plan? So then that way, when you start getting your volunteer base, you're going to have workshops to then, engage your volunteers and also to train your volunteers depending on the different tactics and strategies that you're going to use. So my first question would be, have you put together an outreach committee and put together a plan for your area, because media is going to come under it. And so that would right there answer your question, because your committee would then be like, okay, this is the dollars that we have, this is the plan that we have, this is the strategies we're going to use, these are the volunteer base that we have, you know, and so on and so on. This is the media that we're going to incorporate, and that would all be underneath your plan. So I didn't know, do you have a plan or a committee that will help you structure one?
Yeah, about 80% of our Republican Party are folks of Hispanic, about 80% of our Republican Party in
Have you set up metrics, though, as well, like for measurement? Because one of the things, unfortunately, that happens in outreach, no one sets up metrics, and then you don't measure. And then you don't know, was that ad campaign successful or not? And then you redo it again, and let's just say it wasn't successful. I'm not saying it won't be, but if it wasn't, you have no way of measuring. And then second time around, you spend that money again, you know, without any, you know, making any traction. So that's one of the first things is, have you created a committee? Do you have a structured plan with metrics to measure? Okay, so then they should be able to come together with a media plan for you. And like the commercials, I would have to see exactly which area you're in. Yeah. So maybe afterwards you can come up afterwards and we can discuss. But that's number one, period. Yeah. So
I think you're brilliant.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. That's wonderful.
The one thing I would caution though on that is that in Southern California, we're doing a lot of polling right now. And
polling what kind of polling?
We're going to grassroots Hispanics, and we're trying to find out how they feel about their what their issues are, what the priorities are, and how they feel about the Republican Party. And when we ask them how they feel about the Republican Party, everything is going well, and all of a sudden it just dives. So what we're doing, so what that's telling us is we're not going. The message we have that we're going to send out there in Latino media is not going to be come and vote Republican. We want you to be Republican. We want you to be part of the Republican Party. Vote for us. We're going out there on messages that they understand, that resonate with them, and then it's a plan that we're going to have. It's not going to be. It's going to be a an 18-month plan that we're going to cultivate them and bring them into the fold. But it's not going to. We're not going to hit them right out of the box where we want them to come and vote for us because we're Republicans.
No, I think that's key. That's why outreach is layered, and that was one of the key points.
But as in perhaps a radio campaign that says these are values we think are important, like he's doing.
Yeah, I don't have. I was just curious about if he asked a specific question about is it a waste or not. I really wouldn't know until we discuss a little more to see if you already have a plan of action and what metrics you have. Because the only way you're going to know if it's successful or not is to have metrics to then measure.
Right, and I think what we're hitting at it's. Having a radio ad, doing something online, it's a great tactic, but you need a message and a plan to get that out there. So doing one thing by itself is not going to do anything to connect with the Hispanic voters. Like the thing that's, what's hurt us the most is like we only do little spurts of outreach. We need a consistent long-term message. So that is great as long as it's paired off with lots of other layered events as we're all talking about. So it's a consistent message where that radio ad is directing people to a website, so you're collecting their emails that makes that you're talking to them and then inviting them to an event. So they're constantly seeing that you are engaged, that you care about them, that you want their opinion, but it has to be a long-term, consistent effort.
Okay, wonderful. Actually,
I swear we'll stay behind. I
okay,
promise, because I know the next they have another panel. Don't you guys?
No.
Oh,
no,
we're going
to. We don't.
Oh, we're moving on though. Okay.
Con permiso. We have a couple of things that we need to get to, but you'll be the last person. How's that?
God, I wish I could see. That would be very helpful.
We're all going to be here for a while, so
just smile into the light. All right.
Yes, I'd like to know what the policy stand is from the HLN on English only, because I think that's one of the hardest things to sell our Hispanic community, where you see the Republican Party pushing the English only, and also the Tea Party, by the way.
Just for our information, your name and your organization.
It's Nash Torres, and I'm not with any organization, just myself.
Okay.
Okay.
We, right now, one of the reasons why we brought this conference together was because we wanted to hear from you, and we wanted to present those policies and get feedback from you. So as you'll see from our website, which is HispanicLeadershipNetwork.org, we are formulating those policies with your input. And so over the next couple of months, we are going to be engaging with you with a couple of surveys and some feedback from you, and then we'll be sharing our policy papers online.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, our panelists. They're all going to be
here.
Thank y'all.
We'll stay.
You can We are going to actually have a break until 6:15. We will meet at the Outside Plaza Hotel for the evening reception. Our reception is entitled Celebrating Hispanics in America. Governor Martinez will be our special guest, and she will deliver the keynote speech for the conference. We hope to see you all, and we want you to enjoy the food and the music, and of course, welcome the governor at 6:15. In the meantime, feel free to stay and network with all of the speakers and all of the presenters. We enjoy your company as well, so make sure that you touch bases with us. But we'll see you at 6:15. We want to have a really wonderful show for the governor. Thank you so very kindly.